When my mother remarried, I wasn't quite sure how to feel. I was 22, still living at home, and uncertain about what this new family dynamic would bring. My stepfather, Mr. Kaleem, was kind and reserved, a complete contrast to my late father, but it wasn't him I was unsure about. It was everything that came with him, especially his extended family. After the wedding, we moved into his spacious ancestral home. The house was always full. Cousins, aunts, uncles, all coming and going like clockwork. That's when I met Amaan, my step-cousin. He was a few years older, tall, soft-spoken, and effortlessly charming. From the start he stood out. Unlike the others who maintained polite distance, Amaan took a genuine interest in getting to know me. It began with harmless conversations in the shared courtyard, talks about college, music, favorite books. I found it easy to talk to him, even easier to laugh. Within weeks, he became the one person I looked forward to seeing. He was helpful in ways that didn't feel performative, fixing my laptop without being asked, offering to bring snacks when I was up late studying, even waiting for me after my evening walks to walk back together. Our families seemed to enjoy the bond too. "It's good to see you two so close," my mother once said with a knowing smile. I took it as appreciation for how well we were adjusting to the blended household. I never saw it as anything more. But sometimes, I caught him on looking at me a little too long when he thought I wasn't noticing. Other times, his compliments would linger with a tone that felt a bit too personal. "You should wear your hair like that more often," he'd say with a softness that left me unsure whether to smile or question it. Still, I dismissed the thoughts. I convinced myself that I was overthinking, reading too much into kindness. After all, weren't we technically family now? Then came the subtle shifts, less about what he said and more about what I felt. I started sensing a quiet intensity in our interactions. He began showing up wherever I was. Kitchen, backyard, even at my university gate once, claiming coincidence. A few jokes from our cousins about us being the perfect match made me laugh awkwardly, but Amaan didn't laugh at all. I brushed it all under the rug, not wanting to create drama. But deep down, a quiet unease was beginning to stir, a discomfort I couldn't yet explain. At the time I didn't know it, but I was slowly stepping into the center of something far more complicated than I had imagined. Something that would soon challenge everything I thought I understood about family, loyalty, and boundaries. The subtle discomfort I had begun to feel around Amaan didn't fade, it deepened. What once felt like thoughtful gestures now carried weight, as though each act of kindness had strings attached. He began calling me late at night under the pretense of checking on me, asking questions like, "Do you ever feel like no one truly sees you?" The vulnerability in his voice made it hard to turn him away. But I sensed something underneath. Something unspoken, yet growing louder by the day. At family gatherings, Amaan would always sit beside me, often brushing against my arm or lowering his voice so only I could hear him. When I once laughed a bit too loudly with another cousin, I noticed his expression darken. Later he asked, "Do you always let people get that close to you?" It wasn't teasing, it felt territorial. I tried to create space. I stopped replying to his late-night messages and avoided lingering in the shared courtyard. But Amaan noticed. One evening, as we crossed paths in the hallway, he asked with a smile that didn't reach his eyes, "Why are you avoiding me lately? Did I do something wrong?" I assured him it wasn't personal. I just needed some space. He nodded, but his silence afterward was heavy, as though I'd betrayed a pact I didn't know we had. Then came the turning point. One rainy afternoon, while most of the family was away at a wedding, Amaan and I were alone at home. I was reading in the living room when he sat down beside me, closer than necessary. He started talking about love in vague terms. "Sometimes," he said, "we find connection in the least expected places. Even within the family, bonds can be deeper than what society understands." His words made my chest tighten. I stayed quiet, hoping he'd stop. But he pressed on. "I've never felt this way about anyone before," he said softly. "It's like you were meant to be here with me." I stood up, heart racing, pretending I needed to check the kitchen. He didn't follow, but I felt his eyes on me the entire time. That night I didn't sleep. I kept replaying his words, wondering where I had gone wrong. Had I been too friendly? Too available? I wanted to talk to my mother, but how could I explain without shattering the fragile peace she had just found in her new marriage? And more than that, I didn't want to be the reason this new family unraveled. So I stayed quiet. But in that silence, the line between family and something else blurred further, and I knew it was only a matter of time before Amaan made his intentions clear. It happened one evening when the air felt heavier than usual. The house was quiet, too quiet. With everyone gone to a family dinner I had politely excused myself from, claiming a headache. I needed solitude, a moment to breathe. But Amaan stayed behind too. He knocked on my door just after sunset. "Can we talk?" he asked, his voice unusually serious. Part of me wanted to pretend I was asleep, but I couldn't avoid him forever. I stepped outside into the hallway, arms folded, already tense. He didn't waste time. "I've been holding this in for too long," he began. "And I know you feel something too. Don't deny it." I blinked, stunned by his certainty. "Amaan, we're family now," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. "I've never seen you that way." His face dropped, like he hadn't even considered rejection a possibility. "Family? That's just a word. We're not blood-related. Why are you hiding behind labels?" "I'm not hiding," I said, quietly but firmly. "I've always treated you with respect and kindness. That doesn't mean I invited this." He stepped closer. "But the way you looked at me, the way you listened, I thought it meant something. I thought we had a connection." I took a step back. "I care about you, but not like that. I never encouraged anything more." Silence fell between us, thick and suffocating. His eyes hardened. "You're just like everyone else, playing nice until things get real. I opened up to you. And I never asked you to," I replied, the firmness in my voice finally rising to meet his frustration. "You chose to interpret things your way. That's not on me." He shook his head, bitter laughter escaping his lips. "You know what? Can't stay here. I can't pretend everything is normal when I feel this way." Before I could respond, he turned and walked away. Not just from the hallway but from the house. Within the hour, his things were gone. He left no message, no explanation for the rest of the family. Only silence. My mother asked what happened. I told her Amaan needed space and left it at that. How could I tell her the truth without making her question her marriage, her peace? In the quiet that followed, I sat with the weight of the moment. I had done nothing wrong, but I still felt blamed, as if my refusal had cracked something deeper than either of us expected. The silence in the house now echoed differently. Not with regret, but with the reality of boundaries drawn and respected. Still, something inside me knew this wasn't over. Not entirely. In the days after Amaan left, the house felt emptier, but strangely it also felt lighter. There were no more unexpected encounters in the hallway, no quiet tension humming beneath each shared glance. The unease had lifted, replaced by something gentler. Solitude, reflection. My mother sensed the shift but didn't press. Perhaps she understood more than she let on. Perhaps silence was her way of protecting the fragile calm we all worked so hard to maintain. At first, I questioned everything. My friendliness, my laughter, even the way I'd sit beside him during family meals. Had I unknowingly encouraged him? But deep inside I knew the truth. Kindness should never be mistaken for consent. And love, true love, never demands what you're not ready to give. I began rebuilding quietly. I focused on my studies again, spending more time in the library and at the tea shop down the road. I started journaling, something I hadn't done in years. Each page became a place to unload thoughts I couldn't speak aloud. Guilt slowly gave way to clarity. One evening, I bumped into an old school friend, Ariba, who had always been intuitive. Over coffee, I told her everything. Not for sympathy but for release. She listened quietly, then simply said, "You chose your peace. That's never wrong." Those words settled inside me like warm light. Over the next few months, Amaan's name was rarely mentioned. Some said he had moved abroad for work, others assumed it was a sudden decision made in haste. I didn't correct anyone. What mattered most was that I had set a boundary, and honored it. There were moments when I felt a pang of sorrow, not for losing him, but for what could have been a beautiful sibling-like bond, ruined by crossed lines. Still, I didn't hate him. I hoped he found clarity too, wherever he was. In time, I stopped anticipating his return. I stopped bracing for whispers or judgment. Life began to feel like mine again. Not borrowed, not shared, not waiting for someone else's reaction. One morning, while watching the sun rise through my bedroom window, I realized something quietly profound. I had grown. Not in rebellion, not in defiance, but in grace. I had learned that protecting your boundaries doesn't make you cold. Makes you honest. And sometimes love isn't about romance. Sometimes it's about choosing yourself when it would be easier to give in. I never saw Amaan again. But his departure wasn't a loss. It was a turning point. One that taught me the difference between connection and possession. And in that lesson I found freedom.